wanted to share with you this morning and ask if you've ever done this. I've done this, by the way. I've bought the cheapest thing in the past and learnt my lessons the hard way when it comes to refurbishment projects. I've gone with cheapest quotes and it always bites you. But this, what I wanted to share this morning was a chap, not a refurbishment but an extension. A chap that has had a builder around to give him a price for an extension, and he asked me my opinion of the price, and straight away I said, mate, you ain't going to build that for that. That is not happening. So this extension was 30 odd square metres, 31 and point something. We'll say 31 square metres, and his price came back at 12 grand. And he said to me, this is really, really cheap. I thought, mate, you cannot build that for that money. He physically can't do it. He won't be able to buy the materials, the labour, and what will happen is he'll probably take a big deposit, start, run out of money, and then walk off site. That is usually what happens. And I'm not saying that this guy has gone in with the intention to do that. He just might not know how to price up work. He might have had a guess, he might have gone in to win it. Lots of different reasons why this particular builder may have got this wrong. Now, thankfully this is at a stage. He spent, did he say he'd spent 5.5? I think he spent 5.5 grand and he was up to damp. And he's called it. Because the builder's starting to ask for more money. Anyway, they've not fell out, but they've parted ways. So he's come to me asking for a bit of help. Now, this is on a property refurbishment project or an adding value exercise. So he's in this thing to make profit. Now, his biggest cost now is the downtime between where it stopped and where he starts again. Because all of that time it takes him to rebuy that job, to re-procure that job, is now costing him money, because that building, that property, remains a liability till it's finished. It doesn't become an asset, it doesn't become an income generating asset until it's complete. You can't sell it until it's complete. So he's sat there now with this liability, incurring loads and loads of costs because it's not been worked on, it's not been progressed. And he didn't know this, he didn't understand it. Is that how it's not costing me anything, there's no one working on it? No, true, but you've got insurance, you've got borrowing, you've got council tax, you've got utilities, you've got meter charges, you've got travel, you've got sorting out all the shit. You may have materials on site that could go out of date. You could have materials getting ruined in weather. There's so many things that are now costing money for it to be stopped. So to make more profit from your refurbishment projects, you have to get a grip of time first and foremost. Time is the most critical thing for you to get a grip of. Particularly if you're building a rental portfolio, this is a huge thing. You can't start generating rent from that property, income from that asset, until it's complete and got a tenant in. So if that property was going to be generating, I don't know, just so I don't have to work anything out, £1,000 a month in rent, every month that it's not finished, every month that it remains a liability, and every month that it's not an asset, that's costing you £1 grand a month in lost revenue. So time is a huge, huge, huge factor on your projects. In fact, I was doing a bit of a webinar for a pal of mine last night, and this came up. A guy said he'd love to get into property. He was a builder. I'd love to get into property and do the work myself. That is very admirable, and I've done it myself. It took me 9 months to do a property that I did myself. I worked every evening, every weekend, didn't take any money from the project, and owing to time, I broke even. Why did I even fucking bother? So sometimes it's better that you go out and do your profession, even if you are a tradesman. Go out and start and earn money from your customers like you did before, and actually buy the work and get it done in a quicker time. So have you done this? Have you done this yourself? Have you bought the cheapest thing? And what happened when you did? I used to have one of them shit phones. What were they called? Huawei, I can't even pronounce it. Huawei phone. Lasted like 3 weeks and it was broke. And this is what happens when we buy cheap. So I guess the message is, You've got to know what the value of the thing that you're buying is yourself. It's not enough to just ask someone for a price. You've got to know what that you should be paying. Because if you know hand on heart, wholeheartedly, that what you're buying should be 30 grand and someone gives you a quote for 10, there's going to be a problem. They're not going to pay for that work for you. It's not going to happen. They'll disappear. They'll walk off the job. They'll ask for more money. One of them things will happen. And that's just going to create a fucking nightmare for you for your project. I want to share with you about when it's okay to buy the cheapest, when we're going out to the market to get a number of quotes from trades and builders, and when it's okay for you to buy or take on the cheapest service. It's something that I would never ever advocate or ever sort of do myself anymore. But the thing with it is, when you're going to do this, when you need to go and buy when it's okay to buy the cheapest is when you need to buy the cheapest. The biggest mistake I see people make is that they go out in the knowledge that they shouldn't be buying the cheapest, but then they do. Or they tell themselves that they don't want to go with the cheapest, but then they do. So it's okay to go with the cheapest when you know that that's why you're doing it. I don't know if I've explained that very well. So if you are purposefully going out to buy the cheapest piece of work, then when you are getting them quotes in and you go with the cheapest piece of work, then that's okay, because your expectations are being met. You are buying the cheapest work for a reason. And then your expectations are being met by buying that cheap piece of work. When it's not okay is when we are getting these quotes back, but we're looking for value, we're looking for quality, we're looking for speed, and then we buy the cheapest. Our expectations are likely never going to be met. And that is when you would never go with the cheapest. I hope that makes sense. And it's come off the back of a quote we submitted when are we today? Friday? No, it was this week. So put a quote in this week for a client. And the quote went over to the client and they came back yesterday and the feedback was this: we really want you to do the work, but you're too expensive. And I was kind of like, well, if you want us to do the work, then we'll come and do the work. But if we're too expensive, then that tells me that you are always going to shop on price. So the question going back is, to go back to that particular client is, what are you basing your decision upon? If you want me to do the work, what are you basing the decision upon that you've made? It's got to be price, right? So if you are going to shop on price, if price is your overall single only driving factor in making that decision, you have to know that that's why you're doing it. Otherwise, you're going to end up disappointed. You end up going to fall out. Now, I know what value we bring to a project, as in my construction company, that is. So therefore, our price reflects that. I am often seeing who's the best bathroom supplier, who's the best kitchen supplier. I saw one the other day, who's the best place to buy a TV from. And I was like, what? That word best, if you're looking for the best, if you're looking for the best, that's amazing. That's what I strive to achieve and work with, the best. But where people get confused is this: they go looking for the best and someone will recommend something else, and then the response might well be, they're too expensive or they're outside of the budget. So you wasn't ever looking for the best, you was looking for the cheapest. And this language that we use is always going to end up in conflict for you. So if you're asking for the best, but what you truly mean is who's the cheapest, you're always going to end up in conflict when prices come back and service delivery comes back. Because when you're looking for the cheapest but expecting the best, the service that gets delivered to you is not going to meet your expectation that you had when you started. Language plays a massive part on your refurb projects, particularly when sourcing materials, when sourcing trades, when you're delivering your projects, language is a massive, massive thing. And that's one of the biggest ones for me in procurement, when you're buying the job, when you're sourcing suppliers, when you're sourcing trades. Who's the best plasterer? And someone drops a name in, and then we get, I tried them, but they were too expensive. If that's your response, then you were never looking for the best, you were looking for the cheapest. So just be honest with what you're looking for. Looking for the cheapest is okay. It's okay if that's what you're doing, but you've got to know that's what you're doing. If you're shopping for the cheapest, then say that. Ask for that. Who's the cheapest plasterer about? And the delivery service of that individual or that customer, that service provider that they give you, their expectations will be met. You went for the cheapest, and that's okay. But you've got to know that's what you're looking for. And I want to talk to you this morning about when we get it wrong, when the builder, when the tradesman gets it wrong, because this does happen. Of course it does. Now, I'll often see people comment on my videos in my Facebook group, even on YouTube, that they've been in the game 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, whatever, and they've never had a customer complaint. I'm calling bullshit. Not fucking happening. That's not possible. Sometimes the service that we trades and builders deliver doesn't meet with customer client expectation. That's not to say that you've done a bad job. It's not to say that you've done a shit job, but that does happen, of course. We all have them days. We all have them jobs that are a fucking nightmare. That happens. But when this does happen, it's not necessarily someone that's done a shit job, someone that's not put the quality in, someone that's not put a shift in. It's usually expectations not being met. Client expected one thing from the tradesman or builder expected to do something else. And usually when them expectations aren't met, heads start getting buttered, arguments ensue, then we fall out, then everybody's calling everybody fucks, all the fucks under the sun. When it could have easily been resolved earlier on in the argument. So the floor one. So we had a rip out job in a project, and the floor was on the piss. The existing floor was on the piss. It was a timber floor, and it sunk on one side. Now, to straighten up this floor, we put a price in. Client didn't want that floor to be straightened up and told us to leave it where it was, and he would just cope with the slope on the floor. But that meant that the doors on the ground floor didn't open properly. So he called us back to trim the bottom of the doors so they opened properly. But that meant when the doors were closed, there was a big gap underneath. There was no way around it. Absolutely no way around it, without going into the detail. So he's now chipping at us. This is shit, this is shit, this is shit. Now, again, you've got to be factual. Be factual in what it is that you communicate. Now, it's really easy for trades and builders, this was me a few years ago, by the way, to get defensive, and you can become aggressive. To get defensive, to defend the work that we've done, doing the best with the tools that we have. To get defensive and fuck off, that's not shit, that's the fucking best we can do. And they are typical conversations that we have on site. We can't do anything else. Then the argument ensues, and then we fall out. So when something's just pointed out like this, that shit, a great way for us trades and builders to respond would be to ask a question back. What would need to happen for that to not be shit? What does good look like? You say that shit? What does good look like? Tell me what you want to happen in order for you to say that that's good. See straight away now, using that example and any other example like that, I've now put that back into the client's court to tell me what he expects, to tell me what's going to satisfy him. Fucking hell, I've lost my shit over the years. Letting that ego take control. Defending what you've done. Once, about 12 years ago. I remember taking a call off a customer. This is when, before I had my own business, this is when I was representing a corporate company, and this client was going that mad at me on the phone. I kicked a hole in my own fucking wall. I was that cross, I was that mad, that defensive and that angry. I kicked a hole in my own wall. What a dickhead. But it's them experiences that allow me to share this stuff with you today. Talking from experience. Yeah, so it is one of them things where we sometimes have to look at ourselves and go, do you know what? I could have done better there. Being brave and challenging your builder. Some tradesmen and builders might not thank me for this, but that's okay, because it'll help everybody eventually. I want to share what I'm talking about this morning is a quote we shared with a client. I won't say, yeah, it was a quote. So guys asked us, as part of a wider project, on the front of this particular property, it's quite tall. When I say quite tall, it's 3 stories. And there's the old ornate timber fascia and a leaking gutter. And he asked us, as part of the internals, we're doing the internals on this project, and he asked us to repair the leaking gutter. So up we pop the ladder to see what the crack is. And it's all the old cast iron stuff, and all the cast iron guttering is all rotten, rusted, and all pissing out all the way along. The fascia board that it sat on, the ornate fascia board, is all rotted. You can't see this from the ground, by the way. So we've put our quote together for this particular piece of work. Now, when we've put this quote across, the client ghosted us completely. So the client didn't even respond, which is very common, by the way. So when we put a price across and we don't get a response at all, we kind of sit there thinking, he thinks that's too expensive. That's what the builder's interpretation of the no response is. Good morning, Bonnie. Now, option number 2, which happens a bit less often. Is that good language? I don't think it is. It doesn't happen as often, that's what I mean. So it doesn't happen as often. But we get, fucking how much? That's another one. That doesn't happen as often. Now, this happens because the client in this position has an expectation of what's required, not what it's cost, what's required. So his expectation was to change the gutter union, the running outlet, which is the T-piece for those that don't know. T-piece where the gutter meets the downpipe. His expectation was to replace that. And maybe in his head he had 20, 30 quid. When our price comes over at multi-hundreds, and he can't understand it, he either ignores it, which is what he did do, or he goes, how much? Now, a better question would be, can you help me understand why that's come back at multi-hundreds? My expectation was X. I thought you only had to change a union. And then I'll explain it to him, rather than have this fucking ego battle where we're butting heads and it's this because of this and that's because of that. Just ask for the explanation and I'll explain it. I've got to put a scaffold tower up, first and foremost, because I'm not prepared to work with a ladder. Your entire gutter run needs to be replaced. The running outlet needs to be replaced, and as it's cast iron, we need to replace the downpipe as well. The fascia board's all rotten, so the fascia board needs replacing. And these are the costs of all these items. Now, given that information, you're now better informed to make a better decision on what you do moving forwards instead of just ghosting. So now you now know and understand what it is that needs to be done, and why you know and understand why it's now multi-hundreds and not 20, 30 quid. Because you've got a better understanding of what that work is. So my message this morning is be brave enough to make that challenge instead of just ghosting the people that are putting these quotes together for you. External works. If you want to start making more profit from your refurbishment projects, you have to know what's involved here. Know what's involved with the external works and what things cost outside. It's often overlooked, often missed. fact, I'm going to use the word regular, not often. So many times we price up a refurb, and we're an internals contractor first and foremost. We generally speaking only do the inside work. Sometimes we'll do the outside, but rarely. This particular project's coming to an end that we're working on, and we've now been asked how much for the externals. And without a specification, it's really difficult to say what that's going to be. So specification aside, when you're going on these viewings and you want to make more profit from your refurb projects, you're going on the viewings, do not miss your external works. Look at things like the building's facade. So we're looking for poor pointing. For those that don't know, that's the mortar lines between the bricks. If that's all crumbly and falling away, you're going to need to do some work there. Look for spoiled bricks, chimneys, guttering, lead flashings, leaking roofs, block drains, patios, block paving, tarmac, fences, walls, gardens, grass, outbuildings. We once did a project about 3 years ago. No, about 2 years ago. It was a mid-terrace property in Gainsborough. One of these on the old side streets, the 15 grand specials. And the viewing that we went on, we accompanied the investor on the viewing, and the agent didn't have a key for the back door. So we've said to him, we need to get out of the back, mate. I ain't got a key. But the investor bought it anyway without even seeing the back garden. And then he bought the property, we started the work, we'd gone outside once we got the back door key, and there was an outbuilding. The garden was that overgrown that there was an outbuilding buried under the undergrowth, which he wanted knocking down, which was a massive cost that he didn't anticipate. So getting a grip of your externals is really, really important. Not only recognising when there's something that needs to be done, is looking in terms of finish. Various things come with different costs, of course they do. Cheap and cheerful gravel, a decorative gravel, right up to block paving, tarmacking, whatever that is. The message is not to miss it, not to miss your externals. It's a massive cost because everything's big, because everything's expensive, very labour intensive as well, external works. So don't miss them, don't just run past in excitement to get inside. Remember, there's an outside too that's going to need work. An important part of your deal almost. So to start making more profit from your refurb projects, you've got to do this. You've got to capture this data on that viewing. I wanted to talk about this morning, those builders and tradesmen that don't respond to inquiries, that don't get back to you. It's a common, I'll say complaint, not question that I get. It's a common complaint I hear from people. Builders don't get back to me. I'm asking people to come and give me a price and they don't turn up. Or I'm asking people to do this and they don't show. I've chased them 3 times. No one will give me a price. Our message for you this morning is take that as a win. Take that as a positive thing. Because builders and trades that aren't getting back to you, most likely, are either A, too busy. And if they are too busy, you don't want them on your project. They're either B, incapable. And if they're incapable, you don't want them on your project. C, too inexperienced to give you a proper price. So you don't want them on your project. I didn't know you could do that. Lost what I was on about. So getting those builders and tradesmen that won't respond. Sometimes there will be guys that do get back to you. They don't give you the information that they want, that you wanted, or they didn't meet your expectation that you had when you inquired about a service in the first place. So if that's a thing, look back at those 3 points as well and see if they still tick those boxes. What I want to talk about is the whole who wants to be a millionaire. People come out with this phrase quite regular. I want to be a millionaire. It's a goal that people set. I want to be a millionaire. I want to build £1 million portfolio. I've said it myself. I want to build this £1 million portfolio. I want this amount of money and that amount of money. Now, let me tell you something. You cannot get creative around money. Do not set goals around money. Do not give a numeric value to a goal. You've got to look at what the money gives you, what the money gives you the ability to do, or the experiences that you can experience. So if you want to build £1 million business or earn £1 million, ask yourself the question of why. What do I want that £1 million for? So when we're setting a goal, a monetary goal like that, or a portfolio size goal, end the statement with 2 words, so that. So I want to build £1 million business, so that. And then we can get creative around that, and that's what we're working toward. I want to build £1 million portfolio, so that. And that thing, that experience, that asset, that other thing that you want to buy, that other thing that you want from life, that money can give you, that's what we're going to set the goal around. We're going to set the goal around the output, what the £1 million gives us. And that is my message this morning. Is to not set monetary goals. Let's not set portfolio size goals. We're going to set goals around the things, the experiences that finance can give you. I want to share this morning about where to find your builders and trades. Where to find them. Your builders and trades. This is a key part to making more profit from your refurbishment projects. If you want to do that, then you need to get this right. But what I want to talk about this morning is that phrase power team. What we're talking about when we say that is getting our different trades all lined up ready for our projects to start in order to make more profit from them. So we're going to be looking for sparkies, plumbers, plasterers, carpenters, carpet fitters, tilers, gas man. All those different trades that are going to form part of your power team. I've said it 4 times now. Yeah, so your build team. The common piece of advice that I see on Facebook, social media, across all the platforms in fact, is utter horseshit. I'm not saying that it's a bad way. I'm saying it's not the only way. And that's to take recommendations from others. Recommendations is one way to find those trades that you need in order to make more profit from your projects. However, it's not the only way. And I got talking about this morning. I was in a shithouse clubhouse room the other day, and people was talking about this, talking about how they've had a bad experience on Checker Trade, and how they've had a bad experience on My Build, and how they've had a bad experience on Rated People. That's fucking bollocks. That's like ordering a pizza from the Yellow Pages and then blaming the phone book. All those portals are just databases of people. They're a list of contact numbers of one go-to place for you to be able to go and grab a load of numbers to speak to people and then start doing the work that you need to do to get these people in on your projects in order to start making more profit. Now, it's not the portal's fault if you select the wrong contractor. Checker Trade is not shit. This will piss off the tradesman, by the way. My Builder is not shit. Rated People is not shit. All those places, they're not shit. You're selecting the wrong contractors. If you are doing this, you're selecting the wrong contractors from those databases. Those that say that recommendations are the only way to find contractors, to find tradesmen. And also I know tradesmen that say that this is the only way that they advertise. This is the only way that they win work. That's bollocks too. If you're sat on a stool with one leg and you take the one leg away, your stool's going to fall over. If you're a contractor relying on recommendations only, there will come a point, I don't care how good you think you are, there will come a point where you upset a customer. And then you'll get a bad review. Or someone will talk shit about you. That will happen. And when it does, if that's your only route to market, you're going to be in trouble. So do not rely on one stream of marketing, one stream of putting yourself in front of your potential customers. But my message this morning is about sourcing those trades and builders and where to get them from. There's loads and loads of different places. I don't know why it's such a challenge for people to find builders. I mean, that's the usual question. Where do I find tradesmen? Where do I find builders? All these portals, there's loads of them. Federation of Master Builders, My Builder, Rated People, Check a Trade, Google, the internet, the phone book. All these portals. What was the other one I seen the other day? Book a Builder. Loads of them. Just remember that these portals are simply databases, lists of numbers, lists of contacts for you to ring round. It then becomes your responsibility as a client to make the selection from that database aligned with your needs, aligned with your budget, your specification, your availability, all those things. That's on you. You can't pick a shit contractor from one of those portals and then blame the portal. While I talk about discipline this morning, discipline and focus, I get this question a lot in my coaching communities. I struggle to stay focused, Paul. I'm struggling with discipline and sticking to my plan. And I get it. Totally get it. I've been there. So working really closely with some guys that have started making more profit from their refurb projects. And this is the one thing, discipline and focus, is the one thing that sees them achieve success. Because without discipline and focus, you will just go around in circles, stay on the roundabout without getting on the dual carriageway. You'll just keep swirling and swirling and swirling without making any progress or having any direction. Now, what I'm on about with the process is, if you don't have a process, if you don't have a plan, you've got nothing to be focused and disciplined to. When I was in the military, we had daily orders. For those that don't know, that was a piece of paper that would stick outside squadron headquarters. And that would tell us what our day was. What time to get up, what time to eat, what time we had to go to bed, what time we had to go for a shit. All of them things. And to be disciplined, you had to do what the plan said. It's the same when you go and train at the gym. When you go and train at the gym, those that are working to a routine, a regime, a diary, I see people with those little black books and they tick stuff off. They're being focused and disciplined because they have a plan, they have a process. This came to light yesterday. A guy was talking to me about procuring, which is the art of buying, subcontractors on their projects. He wants to start making more profit. So this was a process he needed to improve and stay disciplined and focused too. So he has a process. He has a plan. He has a procedure in his business. And then not doing it. Not doing what he said he would do. So there's a clear step-by-step process. I'll do this first, then this, then this, then this. I'll make these checks all the way along the way. And once I've made those checks, I'll engage with this contractor and we'll get him on the project. That's a really simplified version of it, but that's pretty much what it was. But he was struggling with a part in the centre to get some information back from the service provider, information back from subbies. Off the top of my head, it was insurance. Oh, they want some of their insurance, Paul, so I've just gone ahead anyway. So bypassing their own process, their own procedure that they've written, and they're going to bypass it and not stay disciplined and not stay focused to their own process. Now, if you don't do that, you will not get the results that you planned when you wrote the process. Same as the gym. You write a training program, go train, miss out some sets, do something different. You won't get the results that you planned on getting. That's why we have a process, and that's why we need to stay focused and disciplined to it. What will happen in this example, the one I just gave you with the guy with the insurance, get to the end of that project, something might go wrong, then he'll be chinning and whining that he had a guy on his project with no insurance. But that's because he didn't stick to the process. And that could impact his profit at the end of the project. Quite easily. Just by not sticking to that one thing, that really one easy fucking thing to do. Really one easy thing to do. I see this all the time with property investors carrying out their due diligence. But half of them don't know what due diligence is. Or why we do it. Or what it is that they're looking for when they're carrying out that actual due diligence. or what to do when they find some information, don't know how to assess the information that they've got. Building relationships before we go and try to even buy a service. A lot of folks say that they can't get builders to get back to them, they can't get tradesmen to get back to them, people don't respond when they send an inquiry. All things like that's a real common thing. If you look at that over my shoulder, your supply chain is your everything. A project without a supply chain will never start, and a project with a wrong supply chain will never finish. So it's really important that you build these relationships first before we start demanding stuff, I suppose is the word, and my experience of the type of inquiry and how it's worded when they come over to me. So when we're looking for trades and builders, I'm going to recommend, there's no right or wrong here, this is just what works for me. I'm going to recommend that you don't just fire over an email to someone, trades and builders, or drop a phone call that doesn't get answered and we leave a voice note saying things like, I need a quote for X. That's just not a good approach for me. If I receive that, I probably won't respond. Just because, even though you're buying a service, they still want to build a relationship, because this is going to be a relationship when you're working with builders. Try something along the lines of, hi, we've got a long stream of work in front of us and we're looking to build a supply chain. We're looking to build a supply chain in order to help us deliver that. Is this something that you'd be interested in? When would be a good time to get on a call? When would be a good time to jump on for a coffee? Whatever that is. Start building relationships first. And what I'm on about is you can't just whip it out. When we just go straight in for the kill, it is a lot like in relationships this is. It's a lot like so what I do to my missus when I run down from the shower naked and start chasing after her. I can't just whip it out and chase after her. I've got to put in a bit of work first. A bit of coating, maybe make her a cup of tea. Maybe do a dinner, whatever that is, to build that relationship. And it's the same when we're courting. Imagine walking down the street and seeing a member of the opposite sex on the other side that we've got our eye on and legging it across the street and start trying to kiss. It's not going to happen. You've got to build that relationship first. I make no apologies for my crude analogy, by the way, before someone gives me shit.